Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I am your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again by the next mayor of Quahog, Preston Jacobs. Preston?
I'm going to get all the A's out of my body. Okay.
It took you a while to get that one, huh? So
That's a Mayor West thing.
So guys, welcome back to episode 5 of the podcast. Today we'll be focusing on episode 2 of season 7 of Thrones, and we'll be giving you guys our thoughts on it. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so be sure to check us out there, and please leave your thoughts in the comment section. We may cover them in the next episode. Also guys, if you're listening to us on iTunes, please do leave a review for us, because we do enjoy reading them. So, Preston, episode 2, on a scale from 1 to 10. Go ahead.
I would give it a 7.
A 7? Oh my god! Let me.
Keep in mind, I gave like episode 1 a 5.
I don't know. Maybe I'm channeling my inner Chad Summerchild here, but at least an 8.5. It would be a 9 if the fucking last battle was not in the dark.
I mean, are you trying to tell me that it's on season 1 level? I mean,
okay.
those episodes? I mean, are those episodes all 9s and 10s? So.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I don't
a
want to
7.9 for me.
Yeah, I'm saying it's one of the best episodes we've seen in a long time from Game of Thrones. I mean, maybe since the Hodor episode. So it was, I mean, not too much happens, but it was solid.
Not too much happens. Why do you people say that? A lot of things happened.
Okay.
Some characters were killed.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I take it back.
Nymeria shows up and does nothing. That doesn't happen, but Jon's gonna go meet up with Dany. A lot of things happen. You're not the only ones to say this.
Two Nymerias showed up in this episode, just saying,
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so let's start off in King's Landing, because not a lot did happen in King's Landing. The one thing I will say I'm really disappointed is that Cersei did not use her blowing up the Sept as propaganda against Dany, because that was, even though that was wildfire, nobody fucking knows the difference between wildfire and dragonfire. Cersei could have said, that blowing up the Sept was a preliminary attack from Dany. She didn't use that to her advantage.
Or she could have said it was the Mad King's wildfire, and it blew up the Sept, and this is the Mad King's daughter, and this is just a reminder of the Targaryen rule.
Propaganda, yeah.
Right. I mean, the fact that both Sansa and Hot Pie believe that that Cersei blew up the Sept is pretty horrible. I mean, it's really tough to believe that anyone in Westeros would possibly follow Cersei, knowing that she blew up the Sept.
Right.
It's a ridiculous thing that they did. It's I mean, we can rail on about it forever, but it's just they could have easily tried to fix it by having Cersei say, "Oops, it wasn't me. Oops, it was the Mad King's wildfire. Oops, it was spies from Daenerys."
I did not like that she did that, but I do like that she called in the I want to say those were the Lords of the Reach. She called them in, and she was basically trying to turn them against Olenna, and she has a good reason with that one. Bringing Dothraki to Westeros, not a good idea. And even if they are on your side, the Dothraki can't be reined in. That's the whole point of who they are.
I mean, she said only some of them were from the Reach, so I imagine it was Stormlanders and Riverlanders as well. But
there are like 10 people there. I don't want to think that there are only 10 people still on Cersei's side. I want to assume there are more people on her side.
I mean, it's smart move I mean, they overpowered Dany in the last episode of last season, and they need to undo that by saying, okay, well, she doesn't have the whole Reach, which smart. Of course, having people teleport to King's Landing is one thing, but yes, they need to depower Dany so that it's a fight. It was really ridiculous that Dany had so much going for her at the end of 6th season, and so now they're doing all of this work to get rid of that.
And that was the point of this episode, because we also see in the basement, Qyburn, who was absent in last episode, has a dragon killing weapon, anti-dragon weapons ready for Cersei to use.
Yes, and then they had Daenerys' team's horrible military strategy. Just dreadful military strategy.
We'll get to that in a minute, but the King's Landing stuff. Did you notice that they also replaced Dickon?
So why did they switch actors?
According to this article, it's due to filming restrictions. They do this often where one actor is supposed to come back later on when they're done filming this other thing, but that thing takes too long, and by contract obligation, they can't leave, so then the show casts someone else. But Billy Bones is from this show on Starz. I think Starz or Showtime, called Black Sails. First season, It's Treasure Island. It's the retelling of Treasure Island.
Oh, I see.
You know Treasure Island, right?
I'm pirates.
Yeah.
Treasure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Billy Bones shows up. What do you think of the whole Rando Tarly? Like, do you think he's going to side with Olenna, or do you think he's going to side with the Lannisters?
I think he's going to side with the Lannisters. I mean, yes, it's ridiculous that he somehow got from the south side of the Reach to King's Landing, but I think the scene made sense. He's got split loyalties. And some people were complaining, like, well, why did he come to King's Landing if he had loyalty to Alina? And I was like, because he was playing hard to get, and he wanted something. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody's, I read the scene like he wanted to take over the Reach. They're giving him the Reach, or at least, it's hard to say what being Warden of the South means, but I took it to be they're going to displace the Tyrells as the rulers of the Reach, which, yeah, that's a good move. It's a good thing to offer. It makes sense. You're splitting the Reach. You're getting forces. You're getting the best general in Westeros. It was a very smart move from Jaime, and it was a good use of Tarly. Yeah. So a lot of people some people say, oh, I can't believe Randall Tarly switched sides. Like, he should be more honorable. He made this vow to the Tyrells, and now he's flipping. And I was like, they're not quite reading Randall Tarly correctly. Like, Randall Tarly, yeah, he's gonna have some of that honor thing, but he's not Ned honor. Like, Randall Tarly is more about, he's all about being a man. It's all man's man. It's about, that's the thing. And so the betrayal, or at least in the books, like, it's about being a man. And this is, Sam specifically says, like, oh, I bet my dad would think it was really cool that I impregnated a wildling and produced a bastard. That's very different from, say, how Tywin or Ned would have felt about somebody producing a bastard. They would have been like, oh my God, you had extramarital sex and produced a bastard? Like, you've brought just, shame upon our house. Randall Tarly would have been like, oh yeah, you're a man. You got to bang a wildling. Like, they like to hunt and you got to be butch. That's what Randall Tarly is about. He's about, hypermasculinity, which is why the betrayal of his wife and his daughter giving him lip was a little off in the show. That he sends Sam to the wall because Sam is so pathetic and not a man, but then he lets, his daughter and wife kind of walk all over him. So that portrayal is a little weird. So believing that Randall Tarly would betray the Tyrells, yeah, sure. He's not honor obsessed. He's masculinity obsessed. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with him betraying the Tyrells and being like, I get to rule the Reach. Awesome.
Do you think we'll even see the Tarly army come in and fuck shit up? Do you think we'll because you're right about one thing. Dany has way too much power, and this episode was about taking her down a notch. And it needs to be more of a fair fight, because when you have dragons in the equation, it's usually not that fair. It's very one-sided. But she can keep her dragons, however her forces will be whittled down. So, do you think Cersei, including the Tarly army in her ranks, makes it a little bit more balanced?
It should. She has the best general in Westeros, and apparently Dany has the worst general in Westeros.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute. But what about the anti-dragon weapons? That being Cersei's trump card. You think that'll work against the dragons? Because she did see a test.
It's kind of it's kind of funny how they like made this big deal out of it. Oh, I've got this secret weapon. Oh, you built a really big crossbow. Okay. I would have been worried. Like, I don't want Qyburn leading me down into a dungeon. Cersei is fearless. You know, if Qyburn says to you, "Hey, let's go down to the dungeon together," I'm like, "Nope, nope. You are the last person I am going down into a dungeon with ever. No, 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 no. I'd rather go down with Littlefinger." But yes, the I think it's a bit of foreshadowing. But yeah, it's definitely something that's going to be useful. Those anti-dragon weapons.
We know that one dragon this season is likely to go down. Do you think that Cersei will be taking out another one of Dany's dragons with those anti-dragon weapons?
I actually think that there will be a different type of anti-dragon weapon that will pacify the dragon, and so that you would have a third dragon rider on the third team, right? So currently we have 3 teams, right? We've got Cersei, Euron, we've got Dany, and we've got Jon. Oh, actually no, and then we have Jon, Dany, they're going to be a team. We have Cersei, Euron, they're a team, and then we have the Night's King, right? So I think a dragon needs to get to the Cersei Euron team somehow, and I think like a massive net or a chain to bring it to the ground or something, and then another dragon rider. I mean,
I don't think we're gonna get a dragon rider on the Euron Cersei team. I mean, the whole dragon binding and dragon riding is maybe a thing in the books, but in the show, having someone on top of a dragon, not to be an asshole, but that looks like it costs a lot of money. And if we can't give Wun a giant shield last episode and last season and include Ghost in the Battle of Bastards, then there's no way there's gonna be at least 3. Okay. For Season 8, I'm expecting a dragon versus dragon battle where people are riding them. But there's no way that we're going to get, like, Euron or maybe Jaime on top of a dragon. They're probably going to take out one of Dany's other dragons first and foremost.
Euron is crazy enough to ride a dragon.
Oh, God,
and I do think that you don't need to have any dragon binding. You just need to, as I say, nettle a dragon, meaning for those that didn't read Princess and the Queen, which is everybody, in the Princess and the Queen, there is a young girl named Nettie, and she doesn't bind a dragon or anything. She just puts some sheep out, and this dragon named Sheep Stealer eats them, and then he gets all comfortable because he's eaten some sheep, and then she climbs on top, and it's as simple as that.
What the fuck? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Which book? I haven't read this one. Is it like a major book or like a little comic?
No, it's one of the short stories that has come out of the big Targaryen history tome. So there's 2 released right now. One that deals with the Dance of the Dragons called The Princess and the Queen, and then one that leads up to with Daemon Targaryen, not Daemon Blackfyre, but Daemon Targaryen, and leading up to the Dance of the Dragons, and that's called The Rogue Prince.
I gotcha.
And then later this summer, he's going to release a third one that deals with not Aegon, but the next kings, Aenys and Maegor the Cruel. And so, and eventually he's gonna, have the whole tomb out. He actually is claiming that next year.
Oh, that's right. I heard rumors about that he wants to release the Fire and Blood book, the giant tome of Targaryen history. All right, we're getting way off track here, but
sure.
I did not know that there was a Princess and the Queen. Where's the short stories, on his blog, or?
He originally released them in one of them is released in a sci-fi fantasy collection called Warriors, and the other is released in a sci-fi fantasy collection called Dangerous Women. And so that You can find them online. You can find the PDFs pretty easily.
We'll have to go back into this later. But the King's Landing stuff, you liked it? You didn't like it?
I thought it was great. I thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It worked for me. There are two big things that I liked about the episode, and that is depowering Dany and making things even, and also there was a lot of continuity in this episode. I'm not saying it was, they resolved a lot of the issues from the continuity, but at least they brought stuff up and recognized it, and I'm a sucker for that.
I think it was you who said this. This episode was basically trying to connect this season to the rest of the other seasons.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially first season. There were so many references to first season. But yeah, it was a different writer this episode than the past few.
And what was his job to basically correct the mistakes from the first episode?
And like the last 3 of last season. Yeah. It was Brian Cogman wrote this one while D&D had been writing the other ones. Brian Cogman, the last episode he wrote was the leading up to, not the one where Arya goes Terminator, but the one before that was his as well. That was the one where she originally gets stabbed. He wrote, but not the one where she's miraculously healed. That's a D&D.
I don't really remember much of season 6 at this point. I remember the 5 good episodes we got, and then yeah. All right, so you want to get into why Dany's generals are terrible. Let's get into the Dragonstone scenes. I will say that at first I wanted Dany and Varys to bring up that conversation that should have been had last season, but I'm finally glad we got it this time around. I will say, though, I do like that she has a little bit of dragon blood in her, and that, in a sense, she was kind of playing Varys a little to see where his loyalties truly lie. But she took him to task. I like that, but I think she went just a little bit overboard. She has to remember, I want her to remember that, yeah, even though Varys did all these things, he kind of had to, but at the same time, he did bring you a bunch of allies.
Right. I mean, I wish Varys would have just said, yeah, it was part of the whole freaking plan. It was like my scheme, and she would be like, what? And he's like, you were never, like, they could have had it be, you were never in danger when I tried to poison you. And she would have said, what? And he's like, why do you think I informed Jorah to save you? They could have played it like that. It was my plan the whole time. And, and then why did you support my brother? Because he was a Targaryen. I support Targaryens. Mm-hmm. And she could have been like, why did you support Robert? I was never supporting Robert. I was waiting for the right moment to bring you guys back. I was always a Targaryen supporter. They could have had it like that. Instead they made Varys the kind of man of the people, Marxist kind of thing. Which they didn't need to do. They could have just said, I support Targaryens. I supported your father. I supported your brother. And now I support you. You were never in danger. I planned the whole thing.
The one thing I hate that they don't do with Varys is we don't know much backstory about him, other than that when he was younger, he got his genitals cut off and by some kind of sorcerer. Yeah, we got through all that bullshit, whatever. But why does he support the Targaryens so much? Is it because he's all about the people? Okay, fine. But you're originally from Essos, so why do you care about the Westerosi people so much? Like, what's your whole deal behind that? And they're probably not going to go into his backstory, which really fucking irks me. I hope they do, but I feel like that's more of a book thing.
And that's the weird disconnect as well. If Varys is this man of the people, okay, why did he support Viserys? Not that Viserys is a cruel guy. He was just a mean and physically and verbally abusive dude. But Viserys, he was no Joffrey. He wasn't killing puppies. He was just a big insecure jerk, paranoid jerk. But still, what made Viserys a good ruler? Why would you support Viserys if you were a man of the people? Why would you support Dany if you were a man of the people? Like, Dany's never done anything. I mean, yeah, she freed the slaves, but at the same time, she crucified people. She fed innocent men to dragons.
Well, we didn't know they were innocent at the time.
I mean, she didn't know they were innocent at the time, but she fed somebody. She forced a guy to marry her. She fed an innocent dude to a dragon.
Well,
She
once you put it
crucified
that way, I mean, geez, she sounds like a monster, but still.
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I'm not saying that Daenerys is the worst human being in the world, but she's certainly no better. She's certainly worse than King Robert. If you're talking about heart, and cruelty, like Robert Baratheon never did anything like that. So I don't understand why a man of the people is like, why are they so inspired by Dany? That's what I don't understand.
I think she's inspirational if you're a hardcore feminist, but other than that, other than freeing the slaves, she doesn't really do too much for me to think that she's incredibly inspirational or just an icon. What I really enjoyed about her season 1 arc is that she goes from being timid and shy to someone that I can actually like, someone who's not a pushover. I get that the immunity to fire and all that and the reborn the dragons are inspirational to a few people, but if you take away her dragons, all you have is the immunity to fire, which at best can be a cool party trick. This is also a dangerous discussion topic too, especially in today's world where everyone's offended by anything. Disliking Dany can sometimes be a douchey move to other people because they'll label you as someone who can't handle a strong female in power. I dislike her a little in the show because of her arrogance, and that frustrates me a little because we like our people in power to have some sense of humility and not having their head up their own ass. It's hard to write a character like her, for the show at least, where she doesn't sound so arrogant and sometimes dumb. George wrote her in the books, in my opinion, as a young girl learning about herself and the world around her, while in the show they just want to prop her up as a symbol of feminine power without really earning it. They want to prop her up so quickly and not just work towards it. Once again, I don't know if this is due to Emilia Clarke's acting or their writing for her, but you're right, Dany doesn't do too much for me to sit there and be mesmerized by just her being on screen.
And I don't want to Dany bash, because they do the same thing with Jon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jon is... They put the inspirational music behind him, and then he's everybody like worships him, and I'm like, what has Jon Snow ever done that's been any good?
Well, like I can argue against that one. He's done a lot of things for the good of that one region, maybe not the good of everybody else, but he did save the wildlings. He did lead the attack against the mutineers.
All three of them? All three of them that are left? I mean.
He tried, though. He tried.
He let the wildlings through the wall, and then sent them into a like horrible war, and where they all got killed except for like 3 of them. What was so what's so inspirational about that?
He tried, though. He tried. I mean, the wildlings did have to. Preston, don't fucking argue with me on this. Like, come on. Like, the wildlings did have to fucking join his army. Otherwise, Ramsay and the Boltons would have just destroyed them anyway. So they kind of did have to intervene. But he tried to save the wildlings. He tried his best to lead the defense of Castle Black to keep, the order there. He went out and killed the mutineers. He did his best to try to infiltrate Mance Rayder's camp. He does his best, but he does more than Dany.
I don't know. I mean, Dany freed the slaves.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
but
it's hard. It's like Dany freed the slaves. It's hard to not like think of that as a huge deal. And she didn't lead all of them into battle to get slaughtered. They're all living so awesomely under Dario right now. So
are they living under Dario? Like, what's happening over there in Marine? Are we never gonna get like a resolution to that?
We just have to assume that it's like complete and utter peace and prosperity.
Oh god.
That's the assumption. That a sellsword captain, a
sellsword captain is living the life as the new king of Marine.
Yeah, and I think he's got all 3 cities.
Does he?
I think so. Well, nah, maybe just Marine.
All right, we're getting way off track. So, Varys and Dany, not bad. I like that they did address it. It's addressed, whatever. Melisandre coming out of nowhere. Why didn't she tell Jon? Why didn't she tell them about Jon's resurrection? And I liked how you also noticed the whole thing that she does mentioned who she believes the prince that was promised is, because Dany's so arrogant she automatically thinks it's her.
Well, so this scene I would say that was this scene was really ridiculous. Like, okay, so I I really dislike how much the show just props up Dany, Jon, and Tyrion. The three of them are made into these absolute heroes. The dark sides, their faults are just forgotten, like immediately. So like, you know, up in Winterfell, everyone's like Tyrion Lannister. Oh, he was such a great guy. He's with Dany. Oh, he was so kind to me. Are you forgetting that it's public knowledge that Tyrion killed his dad? Like, and most of the world thinks that Tyrion killed Joffrey. So, you know, there's no reason everyone in Winterfell should be like, oh, gee, swell. Tyrion Lannister. So fantastic. Like,
well, wait. Wasn't their initial reaction to Tyrion like, ah, fuck him? Wasn't that their initial reaction?
No. Like, Jon's reaction was like, oh, really? My good friend from our month at the wall.
Well, Jon's reaction, yeah, but I'm talking about, like, the other Lords of the North. Weren't they like, ah, fuck him? Because everybody still hates the Lannisters.
I mean, it's true. Everybody besides Davos, Sansa, and Jon were like, you can't trust the Targaryens, you can't trust the Lannisters. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we're supposed to only care about what the protagonists think. And they're all like, oh, Tyrion, great guy. And then meanwhile with Tyrion, they're like, oh, let me tell you about Jon Snow. When he was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, he let the wildlings to the wall. When he was King of the North, you know, he united everyone. It's like, wait a minute. That means he's a Night's Watch deserter. Like, right there, there's that connection. Like, and everyone's just like, oh, he sounds like a great guy. What? Like, he just admitted that he's a Night's Watch deserter. Like, he should be executed. Like, he broke a vow.
Technically, he didn't break his vows.
Oh,
he served till he died, and he died and got brought back, whatever.
But that's the thing, is she didn't bring up that he died.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing, right? Now, why didn't she bring it up? I think she didn't bring it up because I think she wants Dany to think that maybe she's the princess that was promised, and that saying Jon was resurrected is perhaps a little too convincing that he's the chosen one, or maybe it sounds a little too desperate, too unbelievable.
Well,
you know?
The one thing that stood out for me is what Tyrion. You had maybe less than 2-3 scenes with Jon, and you automatically trust him?
Yeah.
What the fuck was that?
6 years ago, you knew this kid, and he was a kid, and he still is a kid. Yeah.
Wait, has it been 6 years in this show? No, it's been like 2-3 years. 3 years.
I mean, I don't know how the time. I mean,
3-4 years.
According to the age of Gilly's baby, it has been 10 months, 11 months tops, maybe a year. Like, but
whatever. We're getting off fucking topic of Melisandre being a sneaky snake.
Yeah, she's being a sneaky snake. I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, in the sense of like trying to unite them, there's good reasons why she could have kept Jon's death a secret. But I don't know. For the most part, though, the show has been just glossing over it. I really thought that when Jon was resurrected, they were going to make him like some religious leader, that everyone's going to be like worshiping him. Dude,
like I said, in the books, yeah, there's a definite reason about that, but in the show, that would be interesting and too cool. And of course the show wouldn't do that. Anything interesting and cool, the show never does. They always do the very thing that some random person in the blog somewhere writing fanfic would totally do.
But it was just frustrating because Tormund, like, they used the quote in the trailer, like, some people think you're a god. And that's the first thing Tormund says to Jon when he wakes up. And then that that line of reasoning is just dropped. You know? Mm-hmm. Like, you have a great reason that the North could unite around him, that they would choose him to be king, that they would all accept him to be, you know, him getting out of the Night's Watch. You know, him dying and coming back to life.
Did you also catch him, like, the usual hero trope of, I don't want to be a hero? Did you catch him saying, like, I never asked for this? Like, What? Okay. Then don't fucking take it. Give it to Sansa. Let that be
Right.
the more interesting thing. Be the foot soldier we all want you to be. Be the guy that goes out there and takes out the Night King, and let Sansa do the diplomacy. Let Sansa treat with Daenerys.
I mean, it would have been a much more interesting story if Sansa were the main character.
Or
and
we're getting into the North now. Okay, let's go back to Dany a little bit. So you said you got on Tyrion's case about that. He's the bad general.
Oh, he's horrible. God, what a horrible. It's like the dumbest. This is like handing Sansa over to Ramsay kind of fuck up.
How so?
I mean, well, okay. Rather than just win the war right there, like go into King's Landing and just win the war.
Mm-hmm.
We already saw that the dragons can do like, pretty precision strike. Plus, the Red Keep is not near the rest of the city. It's behind walls. Like, you could totally go in and like not hurt that many people and win. Plus, like a siege, everyone's gonna be starving, so you're gonna be killing lots of people. Like, you think like if you do a siege, who are the first people whose food gets taken away from them, and who's the last?
That's the point, though. Have a siege. They can't be fed. They go in there and they storm in and remove Cersei themselves. Dany's whole idea, from what I gathered, was let the people decide.
And then they get killed and murdered. It's like the Warsaw Rising or something. Like these uprisings are not. A lot of people die during these things. It'd be just a lot easier to send in a dragon, burn the Red Keep down, kill Cersei and Jaime. I mean, I think there's a reason why Tyrion made such a bad plan. The reason is he secretly doesn't want to kill his siblings. That's a very compelling motivation. What's ridiculous is everyone else in the room being like, "Oh, what a great plan!" Like Yara actually nods, like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great plan." No, it doesn't. It's a horrible plan.
Well, what plan? The one about taking Casterly Rock?
Yeah, splitting his forces up, taking Casterly Rock, not immediately taking.
Well, the whole taking Casterly Rock thing, that also is a callback to season 2 of what Robb says. How can I call myself king if I can't hold my own castle? Technically, Cersei and Jaime are the heirs to Casterly Rock. How can anybody respect them if they can't hold their own birth?
If they're respecting him after blowing up the Great Sept of Baelor,
they'll
respect him for anything. Honestly.
No, yeah, that's why fucking assholes just blame it on Dany, you fucking cunt. But
it was true. It was such an easy solution. Blame it on Dany or blame it on the Mad King. Blame it on the High Sparrow. Be like, he did it. He was a religious crazy. He was a religious crazy, and he had a suicide pact because they thought there was an alien spaceship behind the comet or something. That's.
Well, the one thing she should have done was just, instead of just taking Casterly Rock, have your forces take it or bring into the fold the castles surrounding King's Landing, because they're in the Crownlands. There are houses in the Crownlands who are devoted to the crown, of course. Have those houses bend the knee and have them do the siege.
Or perhaps take Griffin's Roost and then Storm's End, and hope that banners flock to you. Or is this what you're saying?
I originally thought they were gonna do the Aegon plot. They're not. There's no Aegon. They're not. I thought they were gonna do that because my whole thing is how can Cersei win? Back before this, how can Cersei win? Teaming up with Euron to take out Yara's fleet, okay, fine. But I thought they were gonna do what happened in the Winds of Winter preview, where half of Dany's fleet is split up by a storm or something.
That would have been nice. Yeah, that would have made a lot more sense. They just botched so much in order to one, reuse the Dragonstone set, and two, like, to have that like dramatic entrance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I personally think it would just be a lot cooler if they were all down in Sunspear. Like, it would just make a lot more sense. It would be neat using that environment again, the Sunspear environment. I mean, they could reuse that set.
I'm glad they were never at Sunspear. They're only at the Water Gardens.
Water Gardens, yeah.
I'm glad they did mention the Sunspear, because now we'll never see it. According to artist interpretation, it looks like the palace from Aladdin.
Oh, really?
Okay, so Dragonstone. So Tyrion is the worst general here, and everybody's paying attention to him. What about Olenna? Olenna sounds like she just wants flat out revenge.
She does, and she says, be a dragon. I guess Dany didn't take the advice. Olenna should have given that advice 10 minutes earlier when Tyrion was giving that horrible horrible plan. She should have said, "No, be a dragon. No one respects you guys. Just attack King's Landing now." Like, that would have been the best way to go.
So you think Dany's whole thing of wanting the Westerosi to take wanting the Westerosi to rise up and take their own castles instead of it looking like a full-on foreign invasion, do you think that's not a good plan? Just go in there, beat the shit out of everybody.
I don't think so. Plus, like, if Dornish are helping, the Dornish are considered foreigners anyway, so that's foreign. In fact, later in the episode, Arya makes the foreign invasion joke. So why have them be part of, what are they? Is having Dornish people do it like that much better than having Unsullied do it?
Yeah,
not really.
Speaking of the Dragonstone stuff, what about Missandei and Grey Worm? When I saw that in the trailer, I was like, do we really need this? But look, as a guy, let's agree. When I saw the fact that they're gonna start making out, I just got up and went to use the bathroom. But then my spidey senses tingled, and I came back just in time to watch Missandei take it. It was, I will say, at first it started to be a very cringy scene, but I gotta give props to her as a woman for sticking by her man even though he has no manhood. Good on her. That respect, though.
So there's certain actors on the show where I just give them props because they're given so little and they do so much with it.
Like who?
Well, I'm talking about both the actors for Missandei and Grey Worm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have, honestly, like, they were given the worst lines. The entire Grey Worm Missandei plot has had horrible lines.
Right.
But at the same time, I really haven't heard anybody hate on that plot line. Considering that it's nothing more than an extra romance, most people have been like, yeah, it was fine. Oh yeah, I felt something. And I chalk that up to both of those actors just acted their ass off making that relationship work. It's one of the few things that's been done fairly well in the last few seasons, and I chalk it up purely to those two's acting ability, because it's certainly not the dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
but they just put their fucking heart into that, and they made the scene work. They've made the whole relationship work. Something that fanboys should be like, why is that here? Ugh. But I don't know. It's been okay.
I just don't feel like we need another fucking man and woman love relationship. Maybe a woman and woman, another man and man, but I just don't feel like it's necessary to be in there. I feel like it takes away a lot of time from things we could be doing and putting in there.
I mean, that's true, but at the same time, when you're looking at the most, vacant, emotional Dany and Jon, where you're just like, those two characters are just have nothing, that you just kind of go, okay, we need someone that's a human being in these scenes.
Speaking of someone who isn't emotionally vacant, let's talk about Arya. So what the fuck was up with Arya this... We briefly went into this in the Q&A, but what was up with Arya this season? I did not like how she was treating Hot Pie and being very detached. And it's also like kind of a far cry from what she did in episode 1 when she was, sitting around with those guys, talking with those guys. And then she meets up with someone she does know and she's all robotic. What the fuck was up with that?
Yeah, she's jumping all over the place. Like I don't mind the betrayal of Arya in that Hot Pie scene if that were how they were portraying her all of the time. Mm-hmm. Like if she is PTSD'd and she's fucked up, and she should be fucked up, then how she was acting in that scene is exactly how she should be acting. Just nuts, off, jittery. She's been through a lot. But the problem is like they keep portraying her differently. So she went from, you know, like, oh yeah, fist pumping, like, killed that, kill those Freys, rocket, to let's have a touching scene where she sits down and feels for Ed Sheeran and has humanity again, to the next scene of, oh my God, I don't know how to react. I don't know how to deal with human beings anymore. You don't know what I've been through. I can't even look you in the eye, even though you're my best friend on Earth. To, I don't know what the Nymeria thing. Jesus, what was that?
Yeah, the Nymeria thing, I really wanted them to leave like the whole Nymeria thing out, or if they're going to include it, we spoke about this briefly before. If you're going to include the Nymeria thing, just have Nymeria reject her. Maybe Nymeria doesn't recognize her anymore.
And that's how I interpreted it first, you know, until after the episode, you know, the behind the episode that told me that my interpretation was incorrect.
You know, they really should. I in my comment section was littered with people saying like they really should have left that whole showrunner explaining that scene. They really should have left it out. They really should have left it to the audience interpretation, because I mean, a lot of us had like the best interpretation of it, and then we find out what really was, and it was the showrunners basically doing a callback to season 1, which was not necessary, and it just kind of ruined it a little for me. I'm like, oh, it's something about her domesticate. Oh, okay, cool. I thought it was Arya has changed so much from who she used to be that Nymeria almost doesn't recognize her anymore and doesn't want anything to do with her because she's so fucking different and so detached. But no, it's just that Nymeria doesn't want to be domesticated again. Okay.
Right. So odd. So very odd.
Are we done with the Arya stuff? There's just not much to say about it?
There isn't. There isn't. Like I say, I don't mind how she was with Hot Pie. I just wish they would have been portraying her that way the whole time.
Right.
I think it would be really interesting if she had stripped off her mask after being Walder Frey and she was just jittery and off. And she talked to Ed Sheeran and she was jittery and off. Like that would have, like, had they been consistent, like she's fucked up, that would have been kind of neat. But we'll see. I think what they're trying to go for is that the way she was to Hot Pie, that's how she is all the time now. When she was with the Ed Sheeran, what's his name again? You said it right the first time last episode. Ed Sheeran.
When she was with Ed Sheeran, the way she was, now she's acting all friendly. That's the disguise. That wasn't Arya. That was her in disguise. But how she was with Hot Pie, that was the real Arya.
Someone pointed this out to me, like, why didn't she keep the Walder Frey disguise and like journey across the Riverlands as Walder Frey? Because I mean, traveling Westeros as like a young attractive female is not
a good idea.
Not a good idea. So like, meanwhile. Like,
well, wait a minute. Like, traveling as a fragile old man who everybody knows is probably Walder Frey and has a lot of money, that's the better idea?
In truth, she should be traveling as like Black Walder or something. But, I mean, the idea of, like, I mean, first of all, wouldn't it be fucking hilarious to have an entire season of Walder Frey traveling across the Riverlands? Like... like it's secretly Arya, but it's like the actor for Walder Frey, like everywhere. Like he goes into the end of the crossroads and it's like, Hot Pie, it's me.
I think the whole Arya, they should have put more explanation behind it. Like Jaqen can wear a face for a long period of time because he's been doing it longer. He knows how to make them last. Probably the reason Arya couldn't do Walder Frey's face for too long was because she never really finished her training, so she doesn't know how to make the face last.
She was Walder Frey for 2 weeks.
Was she Walder Frey for 2 weeks, or did she save the face?
What was she doing for 2 weeks then?
Hanging out, hiding
in the bathroom. I'm gonna be
hiding in the attic. I don't know. Was she Walder Frey for 2 weeks? Did they confirm it?
2 weeks. She was like going to bed with his wife. She was like running finances. She was collecting bridge duties.
But like, did they confirm that she was Walder Frey for 2 weeks?
She said that to the phrase, "Why did I call you back here when you were just here a fortnight ago?" So yeah, she was there. She was in the twins 2 weeks.
Yeah, she was in the twin for 2 weeks, but as Walder Frey.
I mean, someone has to run the twins. The twins doesn't run itself.
Right. These fucking unanswered questions.
Plus, Maisie Williams, I mean, she's also on a box pretending to be Walder Frey, because Maisie Williams is short. So she's like on a box pretending to be Walder Frey for 2 weeks.
You're loving this way too much.
It's just so ridiculous. Like her being like, okay, honey, like to the wife, let's go to sleep. Getting off the box, getting into bed, sleeping in that mask. Okay. All right.
Let's get into the North. So basically, by the way, Davos can read now. He
pretty well, yeah.
Did you notice that?
That was really quick.
So, I mean, there's still a Sansa Jon thing going on here, and the audience is still, playing favorites. Some people like Jon. Some people say I think there were some in my comment section at least. There were some people being very, I don't want to say misogynistic because that makes me sound like such a douchey social justice warrior, but there's a lot of women too saying, how dare Sansa question Jon? I mean, Sansa did win the battle for everybody, so I feel
also like why isn't Jon like giving her a heads up before the meetings? Like why is he like springing this shit on Sansa so that all of a sudden she can be like, what? Like it's just he's so irresponsible. He's like, I know it's a really dumb idea, and everyone said it was a really dumb idea for me to go see Dany, but I'm leaving Sansa in charge, and and she like argues, and then is like caught off guard, and looks like, she looks like a chump. Like, just fucking tell her beforehand. Be like, yeah, this is my plan, okay? We're all on the same page before we go into the meeting. Like, it's just really unprofessional.
Unprofessional. Well, Jon has been a king for like a couple of weeks. He's still learning the ropes.
I'm just saying, look, I for my real job, I work on a team, and we go into meetings with people. And yes, we have message agreement meetings. This is like a regular thing in the business world. Message agreement meetings where you sit with your team, you're all on the same page, and then you go talk to somebody. Like this is like a normal thing.
Also, so I'm glad they're still doing the whole Sansa Jon thing. But the one thing that really annoyed me this episode with the North was how Peter Baelish is still being written like an asshole. He's still being written like a guy that doesn't know what he's doing and has forgotten the past 5 seasons.
Yeah. He's completely out of character.
He's gonna die.
Yeah, they have nothing else to do with him.
He's gonna die. They could have done the thing that we said a while ago, which was have Peter team up with Cersei. He did have that scene with Cersei in season 5, so why have that scene if you're not gonna bring it back later with the whole taking the North, using the Vale forces there because they do outnumber the Starks.
Yeah.
Taking the Vale forces, taking over Winterfell, and ruling it in Cersei's name. It would give Jon more of a reason to come back and do something. Maybe we can see Dany's dragons in action, but no.
I mean, if I were going to do like what to do with Littlefinger, like I would have like him suddenly, like Jon leaves and then him suddenly like attempt a coup and make it so Podrick was a Littlefinger crony the whole time, and then it's like Podrick, Littlefinger, and Bronzehound Royce like immediately take control of Winterfell and the North, and are just like, sorry Sansa, like you thought that this was my plan. Actually, it was to secure the North, and now I've got the North and the Vale. And then you have an enemy, and you have something cool going on. And then when Sansa like retaliates and eventually kills Littlefinger, you get to get rid of these characters like Podrick and Littlefinger and.
But nobody wants to get rid of Podrick. Podrick's that nice little guy. Everybody likes Podrick.
The scenes are crowded. We need to kill people off. We know that.
They're not gonna. The reason why they wouldn't do that is because we've had someone taking over Winterfell before while there's a Stark in charge. Back in season 2 with Theon and Bran, we've seen this before.
Oh, you mean like in season 5 when Stannis tried to take Winterfell and we had a battle for Winterfell, and then in season 6 when Jon tried to take Winterfell and we had a battle for Winterfell? Like you don't think the show repeats stuff?
No, the show repeats itself, but
how about when there was an uprising in Meereen in season 5 and then there was an uprising in Meereen in season 6?
Granted, the uprising in Meereen in season 5 and season 6 okay, hold on, let me counter here. Give me a minute. As much as I love Stannis, I wouldn't call that what happened with Stannis and the Boltons. I wouldn't call that a battle. I would call that a beatdown. I would call it a slaughter. So what happened with in season 6 was more of a battle, more formations, more. Stannis had a ragtag group of people with him in that fight, because if you saw from the aerial view, half of his army runs away when the Boltons charge. As for Meereen, was there really an uprising in Meereen? It was more like an insurgency.
Well, the dragon pits and stuff, yeah.
More like an insurgency.
I mean, it was... The Sons and the Harpy came out, they started stabbing people.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, the same thing happened at the end of season 6.
Well,
the only difference was that Yunkai joined.
Yunkai joined in.
Season 6 was more about Yunkai joining in, while season 5 was more about the Sons of the Harpy insurgency alone.
I would say, like I said, that season 5 was more of an insurgency, and season 6 was more of a shadow war, because the forces actually do join in.
Right, and then they just kind of forget about. I mean, I don't know why the Sons of the Harpy went outside and got slaughtered by the Dothraki, but whatever. I mean, yeah, it's all weird.
So, the North stuff, it was alright this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. Everybody sits in a room and argues. That's their new thing in the North.
At least we're getting Northern politics. We only get those Southron politics. We don't get the North stuff.
Yeah. There's just way too many people. There's way too many people in all of the scenes. They're so crowded. I mean, we've got Glover, Mormont, Jon, Sansa,
Davos.
Littlefinger, Davos, Tormund. At least they kicked Tormund out. Podrick, Brienne. Mm-hmm. It's 10 people in a room. Dany is 7 people in a room. The only place that isn't too crowded is weirdly King's Landing, which is usually the place that was crowded, right?
You have Cersei, Jaime, Qyburn. Occasionally the Mountain shows up. Occasionally Euron shows up. Occasionally you get a random guest showing up.
God.
How the tables
I guess Old Town is not crowded. Old Town is a good size.
Old Town's like 3 people?
I guess if you count Gilly, it's 4.
Ugh, no one's counting Gilly. Alright, by the way, we're going to skip the Sam and the Citadel scenes, mainly because we've spoken about that so much, there's no point. Preston joined me for my episode 2 Q&A, we discussed Sam and Jorah there, so check out that video over at Red Team Review on YouTube, Season 7, Episode 2 Q&A, for our Sam and Jorah discussion, because we are skipping it here. Now let's get to the cream of the crop, that Euron, the Attack of the Silence, the Greyjoy Assault, whatever you want to call it. I loved it. Absolutely great. Channeling my inner Chad Summerchild here. Absolutely great. My one complaint is that they did it at fucking nighttime. I understand why they did it at nighttime, because it's better to attack a ship. If you're going to ambush the shit out of it, you can't do it in the daytime. You can fucking see 360.
I think it's probably easier to film as well. You don't need as much CGI. You don't need, it's dark. You don't know what's going on.
I will say though, there were scenes that were absolutely beautiful. Like when Euron does take Yara, and you have Theon, and the smoke and the blaze is all around him. Like that was a beautiful scene. Just Theon's face when he sees Euron has a sister. That was great. Beautiful scene. I loved it.
I'll straight up say that Alfie Allen is the best actor in the show. And I think Jenna Williams is her last name.
She plays Yara.
Yeah, I think she is. I think she is in the top 4, actors in the show. I mean,
top 4, not top 5.
Why not? I don't know. she's up there. I mean, the question is, Lena Headey is really good, so it's hard not to say that Lena Headey is not freaking great. Mm-hmm. But she's really fantastic. So they do their best with even when the material's bad, and even when there's no dialogue and it's just their face, you can read everything on the face. And so yeah, they did a great job. I don't think the standoff made up Gemma. It's Gemma Whelan. Gemma. She's a fantastic actor. But they did what they could. I don't think the standoff made much sense. I don't know what Theon was supposed to do. He had no choice but to jump in the water, because if he runs towards Euron, he's gonna stab Yara. So what can he do?
Plus that PTSD though, they really Ramsay's torture is still affecting him, and they really Theon. You're right, he is a good actor. Theon really, Alfie Allen really did show Theon's like whole mindset there.
Oh yeah, and so you got. I don't know what Euron was expecting. I don't, for Theon to run into Euron and then just die. Mm-hmm. Euron just killed 2 sand snakes who are, supposedly some of the best fighters in the world. Euron must.
They're not some of the best fighters in the world. They're not one of the best fighters in the world.
In the book, Obara is supposed to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, but in the show they fucked it up. So in the show they suck. But no, I do like his entrance. His entrance was fucking fantastic. The one thing I do love about Thrones is making you believe that this world is lived in, this world has personality. And I do love little things like last season, the blackfish. If you notice, his armor looked like fish scales. Yeah. The one thing about in season 4 with Oberyn, his spear had a snake on it. With Euron this time around, his outfit was garbage, but his axe. Did you see the kraken on his axe?
Oh no, I'll have to look back for that.
You have to. There's a kraken on his axe, and you can see like it was such detailed. Like when he has Yara, you can see the little suction cups on the kraken's tentacles. Your arch nemesis named it on Twitter a Kraxon.
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty beautiful. Yeah, you're right. Little suction cups. That's a very cool looking axe. I'm sure that'll be on the gift shop for an expensive gift shop.
I doubt it because they only enjoy putting out their things you can hang up. I don't think they'll actually put out an axe that's way too fucking expensive. The only thing they ever did that expensive was Robert's Warhammer, but everything else is all Valyrian steel. I mean, they never even sold Oberyn Martell's spear. So.
Oh. Well, maybe I'll get this custom made for you one day.
I will say though, out of all the weapons, we're getting off track here. One of the weapons I really enjoy is Dario's dagger. It has the naked woman on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Roose Bolton's dagger that he used to stab Robb Stark had the House Bolton sigil on the handle. So I do like stuff like that. Little details like that make this world work for me. So I enjoyed that part of it, but I just hated how it was at nighttime. I wish it was at dusk or maybe twilight.
Yeah, I mean, some people are still angry that the fleet was able to sneak up on them. Like, that was just really incompetent.
There's a reason they do call the flagship the Silence. So
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. And I mean, somebody that knows ships better, would have to let me know. I mean, it might have been like a moonless night or something. And everybody has black sails, and they just kind of came in super fast.
So are you saying you didn't like that scene, or the whole Greyjoy assault scene?
No. I liked it. I'm saying that I've heard other people complaining that how could he sneak up like that? That seems quite shocking.
But what's your basic impression of it? Good, not good? In some places, would you have changed something?
I wouldn't have had the camera be so shaky. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have had so many quick cuts. I'm not a fan of quick cuts.
Me neither. That's one of the reasons I hated the Oberyn versus Mountain fight.
Like I really love like Hong Kong fighting style where they keep the camera. They keep the camera and you just see them fighting. Mm-hmm. Unlike American movie style where somebody throws a punch, they cut away, and then the next cut is somebody flying across the room. So you didn't see anything. So
Jackie Chan actually criticized that because in a lot of Jackie Chan's movies, if you notice, whenever he's fighting like a large group of people, he never throws the first punch. The camera has to be still, or at least like if you're gonna have like 3 cameras, never cut really quickly. Just keep it where the people can see the fighting. Not only that, but whenever he's fighting a large group of people, he's always on the ground. He's always at a lower elevation. Like he's on the ground. He's low. That way he can come up and do his thing. He never wants to be like the threatening, intimidating guy who towers over everybody with his skills. But I really like the Greyjoy assault scene. That's something we needed. In the Q&A, you argued that we shouldn't have killed the Sand Snakes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should have killed the Sand Snakes. I mean, the Sand Snakes, don't get me wrong. I think the Sand Snakes were disastrous and they handled them very poorly. But, sorry, you're committed. You introduce these characters. You need to give, enough time and development to make their introduction, meaningful. Like,
Right.
You can't just kill them off. You've already introduced it. You're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they should have kept them around longer. There are
I
other
agree.
people to kill off.
Yeah, but and the Sand Snake, what was the thing you said? Because you really made fun of this in the Q&A. I had to cut it, unfortunately. But you made fun of how like people were almost every other Game of Thrones YouTuber opened up with them dying and them going, "Woo!" and how it was so basic. Was that your word?
Yeah, absolutely. And it became the hip cool thing to hate the Sand Snakes. And yeah, the Sand Snakes are dumb, but at the same time, like there's a lot of dumb things that have been stuck around, but you got to see it through to the logical conclusion. Otherwise,
or at least transform it into something better. One of your ideas in the Q&A was making Lady Nym a Littlefinger spy.
Right, something like that. Make Lady Nym a Littlefinger spy. Make one of them a traitor. Have one of them disappear and then show up at the Citadel as an acolyte to take on Sorella Sand's role. I mean, there's so many little neat things that you could have done. Have one insist on being part of the just something.
By the way, I do apologize. I had to bleep you there because you said some spoilery things, but continue.
Instead, we just kind of had this intro. We had them fight Arya Hota, and then
what would have been really cool though that I'm kind of adding on to your idea now, having at least maybe all three of them be Littlefinger spies and sending them, actually not all three, maybe I would do Lady Nym, send her to the Citadel, and the reason she's sending Lady Nym to the Citadel is to foil Jon because Sam is giving Jon the information. So she sends Lady Nym to the Citadel as an acolyte to find Sam and stop him. So you have a fight between Sam and Lady Nym where he's getting his ass kicked, and as she's about to kill him, Jorah steps in, saves him, and there you go.
And the other thing is, what would also be neat is there's three of them. Have them have three distinct personalities and backstories and allegiances. I think and that would have been a fun trick because right now the Sand Snakes were interchangeable. And so having two Sand Snakes die doesn't mean anything because Tyeen's still there. You're just trimming the fat. There was, they didn't have different allegiances, but if you had Littlefinger have one of them and one, them being different allegiances, that would have surprised everyone. Like,
and Varys had maybe Obara or something like that.
Like I thought they were all the same, but it turns out they were like incredibly different. That would have been something.
Oh well, maybe when they reboot this in 50 years, we can they'll if we're still alive, they'll call upon one of us to be a writer.
This is my problem is, so when George R. R. Martin put it in his plan, he wanted a cascading plot.
Right.
You introduce phase 1, then phase 2 comes in, then phase 3 comes in. Right now, the show is kind of doing a sandwich plot, where we introduced a bunch of crap in the beginning, a bunch of characters in the beginning. And then we introduced some more characters, but all those characters we introduced are unimportant because we're going to get back to the important characters from the beginning. So it's just going to be a sandwich. Like Jon, Dany, Tyrion, Arya, Sansa, everybody that we introduced in the beginning is important. All this other stuff, that's just irrelevant filler. That's a sandwich.
It would have been way better had they introduced a lot of these characters back in season 5, like Euron, and had whatever. We could do this forever, but let's wrap this up, Preston. We've been doing this way too long. I know it's probably like midnight for you right now.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, once again, we are on SoundCloud and iTunes. Be sure to check us out there. Also, please follow Preston on Twitter or me on Twitter to keep up with all the latest podcast updates. Once again, if you're watching this on iTunes, please leave us a review. We like to read those reviews. Preston, you have anything you want to say before we get off?
That's all. Thanks for watching.
Check out Preston Jacobs' channel at Preston Jacobs on YouTube. Also check out his Twitter and Facebook, Preston Jacobs 9000.
Sweet Robin 9000.
Sweet Robin 9000. I'm sorry.
Preston Jacobs 9000 was taken.
Yeah, that was taken. Oh fuck! I always forget to talk about the fact that you're taboo. God damn it! This have to wait till after the season. Also, there were a couple of minutes I removed from this episode. Preston and I briefly go into a small theory regarding Weirwood ships. If you're supporting me on Patreon, then that will be available to you as a Patreon exclusive. If you're not, then consider doing so. You'll have access to that and more behind-the-scenes clips of Preston and I discussing some topics that were cut from previous episodes due to time constraints. Even if you're not a fan of my channel, it's still the official Patreon for this podcast, so definitely consider checking that out. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.